Hello everybody, it's GirlGotGame and welcome back to Gilded Shadows. Today, we're gonna start the mysterious Quill's route. We've not met this boy, have heard nary a whisper of his name. So, yeah, I don't know what we're getting into, but it all starts here in the rain, doing a choice we've never done before. So the character traits I've got for Morgan this time is cautious, flexible, and emotional. So keep that in mind as we go along. For now, we're going to take shelter. It will unlock Quill's route. That's what I love to hear. Blood rushed to my head as I pressed myself against the wall, looking around wildly for a place to hide. That thing was close by again. I could feel it. Frustrated tears sprang to my eyes. Why couldn't they leave me alone? I was so tired. There was a part of me that wanted to just lay down, play dead, and let whatever was going to happen, happen. But the greater part of me refused to give up. I breathed through my nose, doing my best to mitigate any sound I might be making. It was heading this way, but that didn't mean it knew where I was. If I ran, though, there was a higher chance of it hearing or sensing movement. If I just stayed still... Minutes dragged on. I heard nothing, and I saw nothing. But gradually, the feeling of impending doom getting closer began to fade. I kept my eyes closed and slowed my breathing, keeping my focus on that feeling. For just a moment, the feeling sharpened and I got a very clear image of the machine in my mind as it moved away. That's that rabbit. Now! I slowly began to move out of my makeshift hiding spot. I couldn't continue like this. My head was on fire and my vision was blurring. I was freezing. Unsure if it was the right course of action, I decided I had to find shelter and rest for a while. Just a little while. If I continued on foot, I was going to pass out or get caught. I had to find shelter. I wish I could say I walked with quiet determination, but in reality, I stumbled through the alley, steadying myself on the wall. What little energy I had left, I needed to reserve for if that thing came back. The buildings around me were empty, and most were sealed up. But now I was keeping an eye open for one I thought I could get into instead of aimlessly running into the night. Ah, this place. Trying to keep myself alert and aware of pursuers, I finally ducked into a tight alley between two buildings, squeezing through a partially open door and into what seemed to be an abandoned warehouse. I pressed myself against the wall just inside, letting out a silent breath, and I listened carefully for a long time. There was nothing but the sound of dripping water and my own breathing. I stumbled away from the door and into the gloom, cowering down behind one of the pillars and drawing my knees to my chest. A shaky breath escaped as I buried my head in my knees. What now? I needed sleep. I was so exhausted, but there was no way I could risk it here. At best, I could get out of the rain and rest my legs for a while, though I knew I would fall asleep if I stayed in one place too long. That was what had me worried. This was no place to shelter for longer than just a little while. But where did I go from here? I wanted to get home, but it wasn't as if home was any safer. What I needed was to get to someone who could help me, or just to a populated area. I bit my thumbnail, staring into the darkness. Could I do that teleport again? My head was hurting so much, and I was so tired, but I couldn't stay here. I had never used Psi intentionally before. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to picture a city, a place I could find people, somewhere far from where I was, where no one would look for me, where I'd have time to find help, like Cerna or somewhere. In fairness, I had no idea what I was doing. Was this how teleportation worked? Who knew? There was the sudden scrape of metal against metal. The door! My eyes flew open right as an image began to take shape in my mind. A city, an alley with lights. There was a feeling that settled deep in the pit of my stomach. A sense of safety, warmth, like being welcomed home by someone after a hard day. It was definitely a foreign sensation, one I felt could only be attributed to Psi. Something shoved hard against the door as I jumped to my feet in a panic, and I latched onto that bizarre feeling, letting it pull me toward it. And we're off. I stumbled out of the flash of light, searing pain in my head. It took a moment to realize I did it! Ugh. But I wasn't sure how great an idea it was. Something wet dripped to my upper lip. I touched it, and my hand came away with a smear of red. Blood nose. My vision was blurry as I staggered towards the lights. I didn't know how far I had traveled. It was enough to put me in a populated area. Somewhat populated, anyway. It wasn't as busy as I would have expected. I stumbled towards a wall, running into it more than leaning against it as I intended. Gripping my head, I finally allowed my legs to give out and slid to the ground. Was it enough? Did I go far enough away? Would it find me? I didn't know. The city lights faded and merged into a cloudy haze as the headache became almost unbearable. I was certain I lost consciousness there, huddled against the night with the pain in my head so bad I couldn't think. When someone found me, I couldn't open my eyes at first to get a proper look at him. And when I did, he was just a blonde blur. Well, who could that be? And he shows himself, finally. Hello! Nice to meet you, sir.
Hey, you shouldn't be here. Is that blood?
I tried to scramble away from the voice and hand prodding my shoulder. Instead, I nearly fell over, barely managing to catch myself on my hands.
Hey, what's wrong with you? Are you hurt somewhere?
I looked up at him, trying to make my mouth speak. Who? My arms gave out, but I didn't hit the ground. The man's arm swept under me just in time, saving me from face-planting into the pavement. Ah, and a CG right off the bat. How kind. He rolled me towards him, his face appearing over me with both curiosity and concern written on his features. Help. Please. A warm hand moved my still damp hair off my face as his dark brows drew together.
Why are your clothes so wet? It hasn't rained in this sector.
I didn't have the strength to try to explain.
Hey! Wait, don't shut your eyes again.
There was a sigh, and I tried to look up at him through fading vision. He kept speaking, but I couldn't make out his words. His voice bled in and out, so I could only catch snippets.
You don't belong... where? From... place. Human. I... no. Doctors... don't. Quill. No. Me.
And gradually it blurred together, and I didn't understand any of it anymore. His voice went further and further away. I finally gave up and shut my eyes.
Hey!
Poor Quill. He's just like, did she die? Ah! His voice disappeared into the fog, and everything went black again. Chapter 1. Nysa. I was dead to the world for a while. Whoa, okay. I didn't think about the fact we'd have, like, a new bedroom and stuff. Very nice, very nice. I surfaced once or twice, looking around unfamiliar darkness with bleary eyes, but my thoughts were too jumbled to draw conclusions. At some point, that fog retreated, leaving just enough clarity for some thought to sneak in. At the thought I wasn't sure where I was, there was a frantic pull inside me, fear-fueled and fiery, an anxious desire to lash out and flee. But it was warm. The sheets smelled like soap, and there were kitchen noises. Normal sounds of someone washing dishes or cooking. And beneath that, faint city sounds that helped ease my otherwise troubled sleep. From somewhere, there was a pleasant, nutty, almost caramel fragrance. It followed me into sleep. At some point, the throbbing at the base of my skull returned, but I rolled myself in blankets, buried myself face first into a soft pillow, and didn't move again. New shirt? Alright. When I finally awakened all the way, something yanked me from sleep to complete awareness all at once. Something was off. The bed was weird, the light was coming from the wrong direction, and it hit me that I wasn't at home. I bolted upright, hard in my throat. Dizziness washed over me, sending me straight back to the mattress. Right away, there was a presence at my side, speaking in a calm voice. And he's also got his casual shirt on. Great.
You shouldn't be moving yet. The doctor said you needed to rest. You'd be in a hospital right now if there was one nearby that could treat you. As it was, we had to make do with a clinic that can't handle long-term patients. And now you're at my place.
The man, whose face was a pale blur, put a hand to my forehead. Who...
My name is Quill, and you're safe.
Before I could ask anything else, he lifted my head and held a cup to my lips. I instinctively managed a few swallows of water to soothe my parched throat. I remembered his face, or at least that platinum blonde hair. Where is this?
You're in a dome called Nysa. And more specifically, you're in my loft.
I've never heard of it.
Well, I suppose my bedroom isn't all that famous.
Oh, he's got a sense of humor. What do you mean inside Nysa it's famous? Sir, how many ladies have you picked up off the sidewalk? Amazing.
Not outside of Nysa, anyway.
He muttered the attempt at humor to himself as he resituated me on the bed. There was a curious flat tone to his voice, and I somehow suspected he'd wanted to say something else instead. I wanted to get a look at his expression, but everything was already going dark again.
For now, just rest. Ripley said you need sleep to recover from the psi fatigue.
Psi fatigue? And who was Ripley? I wanted to ask questions, but those faded too. Quill's voice trailed to a fuzzy mumble. And I was out again. I had no idea how long I slept this time either. The next time I woke, it was bright enough I buried my head in the blankets to shut it out. My eyes hurt. I curled into a ball in the bed, listening to the faint sounds of traffic for a moment before I realized I wasn't in my bed. But a dim memory triggered before the panic set in. A dome called Nysa, a blonde man named Quill. Head still buried against the pillow, I tried to recall what happened. I teleported from that abandoned place. Then I think I met Quill on a street somewhere. I also had a fuzzy memory of him giving me water. He'd said I was in his loft, and something about a doctor. And psi fatigue. Right. Rolling onto my back, I flopped my wrist over my eyes. I had no memory of visiting a doctor or clinic, though I didn't doubt that I had needed to. Why was I at his house, though? I was sure that question had an answer. Pulling my arm away, I stared up at the ceiling. It all seemed unreal. The chase in the car, explosion, that vivarium, running in the rain, teleporting. Repressing a soft groan, I shifted and sat up, taking in my surroundings. The loft was open to the living space below, where massive windows greeted me opposite where the bed was. The city beyond was unfamiliar. Everything was. As if I'd been plucked out of my old life and placed here with no logical chain of events in between, like a piece on a chessboard. Downstairs, I noticed the sounds of someone moving. It sounded like a single person? I ran a hand across my chest, curling over slightly. My heartbeat was too fast and my body was sluggish. The back of my head was still hurting too. I want to go home. I was still trying to get my bearings when I first attempted to access my nanosystem and realized I could not. Alright, nanosystem's off again. Still? Something had been done to it the day I fled Cisalis, so if it hadn't recovered, maybe that meant it hadn't been that long yet? That was a comfort, though it was annoying to not even be able to see the time and date. That could be dealt with later. More pressing was the fact that I needed to use the toilet, which meant navigating the nearby stairs. Biting back a groan, I pulled myself up on wobbly legs, scanning what I could see of the flat below. I could still hear what I presumed was Quill. From what I could gather, he was in the kitchen, which seemed to be below me. Yeah, okay, so we're a cautious person, and I don't think he'd be thrilled to see us up and about. Now that I was standing and realizing how unsteady I was, I had some uncertainty about navigating the narrow metal stairs alone. I made my way to them with shaky steps, then lowered myself to the top one to sit. And, waiting a space, I called out in a hesitant voice. Excuse me. The sounds downstairs stopped. There were soft footsteps and a head of blonde hair appeared from below. The man peered up at me, features awash with curiosity.
I didn't realize you were awake.
I am. Just.
What do you need?
I wasn't sure I could make it down the stairs on my own. I needed a bathroom.
Yes, of course.
He came up toward me, expression never changing as I pulled myself back to my feet with the railing. I took the hand he was holding out and shuffled down a few steps as he kept a confident grip on me. As soon as we were side by side, he placed an arm around my waist and helped me down step by step. Relieved, I leaned against him for support. Glad you didn't fall down, girl. I'm sorry to bother you.
It's less bothersome to help you than it would be to deal with an injured person who fell down the stairs because they tried to do it alone.
Figured. Fair. I love your place very much. You've got a great sense of style, my friend. We reached the bottom quickly and he released me, stepping away before giving me a serious look as he studied my face.
Do you remember much about your situation? You were in terrible shape when I first found you and have been in and out of consciousness since. We've spoken several times, but I'm not sure how much of it you remember.
I assume you're referring to the situation that got me to the city?
And to my flat, yes.
I remember everything up to... I frowned, a hand passing over my face, grimacing. Quill waited a beat before he started to help me to a door under the stairs. I think I remember you finding me in an alley, or maybe a street corner. Things were getting hazy by that point. As for anything afterwards, not much beyond waking up here at some point. I think you said the stone is called Nysa, and that I saw a doctor. I don't remember going to a doctor.
You were only semi-conscious for it, so I'm not terribly surprised.
I remember that you said your name is Quill.
At least you remember some of it.
And a fantastic bathroom. Dang, you have probably the nicest place I've seen. Like, just for me, like, aesthetics-wise, I'm like, dang, this is a nice place. Like, I like it. It's, like, very warm and cozy. He led me down an adjacent hall to a bathroom where he flicked on the light, manually, not with his nanosystem, a gesture that reminded me mine was still off.
Take your time. I'll help you back to bed when you're finished.
He vanished into the other room as I shut the door. For a moment, I stood in front of the mirror, studying my bloodshot eyes and stringy hair. I looked terrible. But that was the least of my worries right now, wasn't it? Especially given that I still felt terrible as well. Very much so. For the time being, I tried to not think about anything but taking care of basic needs. After the day I'd had yesterday, I assumed it was yesterday? I should be glad I was alive and safe. Nysa. I wondered where it was and how I'd ended up there. Well, I mean, I teleported in, of course. Why, though, I wasn't sure. I'd been in such a panic. And now it was too difficult to think through the exhaustion. My entire body hurt. A definite reminder of the rough day I'd had before I came here. When I returned to the other room, careful to take it slow and keep one hand on the wall for support this time, I found Quill leaning against the back of a chair, staring into the city with his arms crossed. I stopped there, studying him. He seemed to be a normal person. Just a normal guy, you know, plain shirt, barefoot, with platinum blonde hair falling in impossibly blue eyes. Oh yeah, just a totally, like, normal analysis of this guy. Platinum blonde hair falling into his impossibly blue eyes. She's already gone. I wondered why he had helped me and why he'd brought me here instead of to a hospital. He just said there was no hospital, but you probably forgot. There was a lot I didn't understand about my situation. I hesitated in the door, pulling the loose neck of my shirt back up over my shoulder as I joined him.
How's your head? Ripley said you'd have a headache for a while, and some other symptoms. She prescribed some medications she said would help.
It's not great. There's a lot of pain. Maybe better than it was the day I got here.
And the rest of you? You had some substantial bruises and were all scraped up. You didn't have shoes when I found you, so your feet were also in bad shape. She thought you were attacked.
I'm pretty sore. Mostly I feel weak and tired, and a little off balance. He was silent, as if taking time to contemplate that.
Alright, let's get you back to bed. As long as your condition is improving, Ripley said it was fine to keep you here for now. I'll bring some food up for you.
I wanted to ask more questions, but I had the sense that if I opened the door by asking things, I'd have to answer some as well, and I had no idea how to address my situation. Not yet. I was too tired for it anyway. After a brief pause, Quill sighed again and took my arm, guiding me back to the stairs. Where exactly is Nysa?
Nysa is an unofficial tertiary dome of Areli. I'm surprised you weren't aware.
I've never heard of it. Areli? I wondered if I'd been near there already when I was in the abandoned sector. If not, just how far did I teleport in one trip? Was teleporting that far even possible? We reached the top of the loft and Quill released me, going to straighten the bed a little before I sat.
Wait here. I'll be right back. Don't sleep.
If he had questions for me, he didn't ask them, and I was grateful for his giving me space for now. I flopped over, curling onto my side. Staring across the tops of the buildings at the blue sky, I wondered what my next steps would be. Contact authorities? I need to tell someone what happened. That detective, Ruben Kellner. Girl's like so ready for Ruben's route. Like last three routes, she's like, that detective, Ruben. Girl, wait. He's got one more route, and then it's his turn. I promise you. Maybe him. I didn't know him outside our brief meeting, but contacting someone I'd met was better than contacting faceless authorities, right? Would anyone realize I was missing yet? Mom had probably tried to call, and she would be worried if I didn't respond. And I didn't show up for the statement I needed to give, so Ruben would have followed up and realized something was amiss. Did that mean people were looking for me by now? It was too hard to think about it all right now. I was safe, and no one was knocking on the door looking for me. That would have to be enough for the time being. Solutions to big problems would have to wait. Instead, I watched the sky and listened to the sounds of Quill moving around. I'd almost dozed off by the time he came back upstairs. I woke up enough to eat some of what he brought and take a few glossy pills. He stayed nearby, ready to take away the dishes when I indicated I was finished. Flopping over, I snuggled back into the blankets, eyelids already drooping. My body still ached, but it wasn't long before I was floating in a pleasant and painless half-sleep. Hearing Quill move around the flat below gave me a sense of comfort that stayed with me as I slept. In a different situation, I might not have been so keen to trust a strange man who'd taken me to his apartment, platinum blonde hair and impossibly blue eyes or no. But it was better than being chased by something in the rain. And it was difficult to suspect someone of having nefarious plans when you could hear them washing plates downstairs. Either way, I fell into a deep sleep again not long after that. It must have been the middle of the night when I awoke again. The apartment was dark, and through the blinds, the faint glow of the city was casting streaks of light across the ceiling. The painkillers had worn off, and the dull ache had crept back into my limbs and joints. I rolled over with a soft groan, trying to find a comfortable position, and... I was wondering, I'm like... I wonder if he's just been, like, sleeping in the same bed, because he's like... I mean... It's my bed. I'm just... whatever. He's very pretty. Very, very pretty. And for a long moment, I stared at the lumpy figure lying next to me, his tousled blonde hair spread over the pillow. It took a bit for the sight of him to catch up to my sleep-addled brain. I bolted upright with a startled cry the moment it hit me that Quill was in bed with me. A wave of pain hit, causing me to curl over my knees with a groan. Moving bad. Beside me, Quill stirred, then sat up as well, his voice hoarse and groggy when he spoke. Hello. I like your crop top sleep shirt. It's working.
What's wrong?
What are you doing here? The words came out in an accusatory groan. I glared at him from between my arms as I gripped my head, and Quill, for his part, returned my glare with a sleepy one of his own.
I was sleeping.
Why here?
This is my bed.
Figured. If you wanted to sleep here, you should have had me sleep on the sofa.
I was using the sofa when you went to bed. It made more sense to share the... Ugh.
He dragged a hand through his hair, flopping back over and turning his back to me. Oh, I'm gonna like this guy so much. Oh, it's not even funny.
It's 3 in the morning. Why are we arguing about this now?
People who are complete strangers don't usually sleep together. He rolled over to give me a lethal glare.
We are literally lying side by side in an unconscious state. What is the difference if I'm unconscious here or 20 feet away on the sofa?
Seriously? You know what? Fine. I don't care. I don't know, kind of sounds like you care. I fell back against the pillow and rolled over so my back was to him as well. He was lucky I was too tired for this. After a moment, his weight shifted again, and before I was out again, I heard his muttered words. Yep. You're right.
Humans are weird.
I barely even had time to contemplate what a strange statement that was for him to make before I was asleep again. No, it's not that strange, trust me.